Hello, in this video you'll see probably one of the more interesting and useful and perhaps practical features that came out with C# 14 and .NET 10. Basically, it is null-safe assignment, or to put it more simply, you can essentially check for nulls and assign it at the same time, assign different members different values. You don't have to do that cumbersome if statement around them and all those things. You can now do it in line, which makes the code all much cleaner and more efficient, at least in that sort of usability and readability regard. Now, the best way to get introduced with this is to look at the little example we have here. So we kind of just do this sort of record log, and it doesn't actually record anything. But the main point is that we have this user object, this little arrangement here where we have some data. So user can be null, and we need to check for that if we need to assign new user or just skip the code. Perhaps safely without exceptions and all that. We're essentially just checking for null, and we don't do anything if it's null, and we don't break the code and all that. But it has some members here, and it also has a nested member like that. So that will be very useful as well with this new null-safe assignment feature. Let's take a look at the first one. We just pass through the user, and it's a full user, and it's all good. And essentially in C# 14, and we have both examples here, the old one and the new one, we can just do it like that. So we have user question mark, and then each property we simply assign. So if user is null, it will be okay. If user isn't null, then everything will be assigned. Now, we won't create a user, but it will be assigned. Now, as you can see, this would be the old way. This is how you would have to do it the old way. You check that it is null, and then you only assign after that. So it's a bit more code, and really, once you get used to this new feature, it is a lot more straightforward. The readability improves of the code. It's a very useful thing to have. And of course, if you needed to assign a new user, so create a new user if it's null, then you would perhaps do an else like this, and then you would do like that. But there are better ways to do that now. So very useful, at least in this first arrangement. Now, the second one, we essentially pass a user here, and we also pass another thing. But in this case now, we do have a user. So we pass a user, we have a user, but what we may not have is a profile, right? So in this case, you actually need to check for both. You need to check for the user and for the profile. So that would be the old way to do it. We check, perhaps previously we checked that the user isn't null, and then we also have to check for a profile. Now this is kind of connected, but really you would probably sometimes even need to do it perhaps like this. So user is a null, and then the profile is a null. So just becomes a very cumbersome arrangement. But now, of course, we can just do it like this. Question mark here, question mark where. We have user. Okay, then do we have profile? Okay, if we have profile, we can assign the bio to the profile. And of course, we can assign last updated property as well. So much more straightforward. And again, in this case, we kind of show that we get rid of one of those if statements, or perhaps just minimize it a bit, but it might be a lot more. If you have more properties, you can imagine the size of the code would definitely increase in this case. And then final thing, which is quite useful as well, probably one of the most useful here. So we have this new arrangement here, this one like that, but then we can also do a null check essentially on this, on the profile, and we can actually construct a new profile. So like here, we just essentially, we check if the user is there. Okay, that's not null. Then we go to profile, that's not null, and we update the bio. If it is null, it will just go through, it won't throw any exceptions or anything like that. It will just be safely handled, essentially. That's why it's null-safe. But what's even better is that you can actually assign it. So if the profile is null, then we create it. And again, in this case, we don't just save one if statement. Essentially, it would be if else, or maybe we're checking for something else, or maybe you also check for user with one if statement and profile with another, and it goes on and on and on like that. But now, couple of question marks equals, and we construct it. And if it's not null, it will just stay, so it won't override or anything like that. You can find this whole source code on Patreon. Take a look at it. It's quite interesting. Also, take a look at some free courses with certain subscriptions on Patreon. And with that said, we will conclude this video.